Nerd Talks.
Welcome back to Nerd Talks, and today we are talking about toxic fandoms, or toxicity in our fandoms. I am here with Mason.
I'm back again.
And, we're going to go over, toxicity, harassment, gatekeeping. Our fandoms are supposed to be a fun place where we can enjoy, have a community, grow a community. But there's a lot of times where, especially lately and with social media, that we're just toxic about stuff. But let's get into it. So, there's a big one currently right now, and then we'll kind of dive into a couple of topics from there, some specific fandoms, but let's first kind of, talk about toxic fandom in general and, the difference between the criticisms that sometimes we find versus, I would say harassment, but we're not directly maybe harassing them, although the people on the other end of creators of fandoms might find it as harassment towards them. But otherwise just being toxic and gatekeeping very much so. So, I think there's a difference between us just discussing something and maybe not liking something. And maybe it's in a game, like a tabletop game where there's a rules change that we don't like.
Like Counterspell.
Like Counterspell. In Pokemon, the TCG, we just not too long ago, we had a little bit of like a upset where we were mad because there was a reprint of a card that came out, but we couldn't use the reprint quite yet. And there was a lot of people spiraling out online, and it's like a it's an uncommon card in the card set, which is nothing crazy. Or maybe design choices in a video game where people get really out of hand, and I see it a lot today, particularly in movies and TV, where you see something on TV that we didn't like, so we get hell-bent online and start going crazy instead of just being like, I didn't like the writing for that show, or I didn't think they fulfilled that character's arc. People just get out of hand and they're just like, rah, rah, rah. Just start going crazy. And, it begins to kind of cross the line, but where it's just like, you're really passionate about that thing, about that fandom. And now it's just like, people don't even want to join because it's just, So, a specific fandom that just recently had kind of, a blowback, and I guess they've been having this happen for a while now, and I don't know why recently we've just blown up about it, but I don't know if you know about Harry Potter is coming out. I know you know what I'm about to talk about, but do you know when Harry Potter is coming out? It comes out at the end of this year. So the idea is that we have an HBO show instead of the movies, and we're going to 1 year at a time, in real time as the kids age. Theoretically, this is how it's supposed to work. Each year, we will do the next school year.
Oh, okay.
So let's just say there's 10 episodes for the first season for year 1. We do that. We wait till the next year, and then we get year 2, and so on, obviously, until we get to year 7, as Harry Potter would do.
So it's going to take a while for them to get to actually wrapping this, because they got to have kids at some point.
Well, then I guess we wait. We
wait until they're like 30.
We watched for 7 years, and then the prologue is 19 years later. So we wait for 19. Oh, well, I guess in between there they have children because their youngest.
But you don't really see that. You see the end of 7, and then there's
so we wait 19 years. Go have children. Come back. So
they're going to school.
There is a book for that.
Yeah. No, I know.
So anyway, the toxicity here basically blows back onto the actors, and the actor that is portraying Snape is going to be, I don't actually know their ethnicity or their nationality, but they, obviously we can look at them and we would just say that they are black. I don't actually know if they're from America or from England or where exactly they're from, but they're black, and they are going to be They have been cast as Snape. This has already happened. It's locked in. This is no rumor. And basically people are up in arms. Now, there's a point where we criticize, you know, the creators, the casting director, whoever, you know, we want to maybe critique, that in the book, Snape is not described as a black man. But also, like, wait and see. Like, you know, and I think there's a part with our Toxicity too, and we could talk about it with other franchises as well, but it's like we get so wrapped up in what the franchise was at one point that we can't see what it is or what it can become, or creative freedoms. And this happens a lot in Star Wars, where every time there's a new trilogy of Star Wars, we want the current trilogy that is out to be like the last trilogy, because we hated the prequels until the sequels came out, and now we love the prequels. And it was, you know, so yeah, so that's really the big hype right now is for Harry Potter, is that this actor basically is gonna be black, and people are upset about it, you know. And like I said, I understand the critique, and maybe that's not how the book would have it, but we already got the movies that were pretty close to the books, or just go read the fucking book.
Yeah.
But it's,
and watch the movie, and then they didn't have to play, you know?
well, yeah, it's like you don't have to watch like the, you know, this new thing, you know. But what else? You mentioned a couple before we started recording of a couple of fandoms.
I think, and there's some different things too, like depending on what the scenario is that really drives people away. So I want to start with arguably the biggest one, which is League of Legends, which is just like, it has this notion that it's not a fun game to play, even though like the concept of the game is fun, right? And the idea behind the game, it should be fun, which you've seen Pokemon make a game that's similar, does just fine. But people are either like super die-hard League of Legends, they've been playing it and that's why they don't quit, or they just aren't going to join. It's because not the game designer's fault, but the actual people playing the game. They're the toxic part. Pushing just other players away for not knowing what to do, or that not necessarily being good at the game. And there's constant insults being thrown around. Sometimes they do some un-PC things.
I'm sure.
So, and when you look at like some of the players, they're fine. They're normal people. But there is enough of those people in the community where you just go, this is not like just like that pocket where you just go, ignore the pocket. They don't matter. Like, it's
A chunk of
it's a large chunk. And then it's also becoming true of Yu-Gi-Oh at this point now too.
I was just thinking,
Yeah.
I was like, you were saying things, and I was like, this very much sounds like Yu-Gi-Oh card game.
It is. Like, if you were to watch like the people who create content on Yu-Gi-Oh, the people who create content on League of Legends, most of the time they're a pretty normal person, right? You'll find those ones where you're like, oh, what are they doing, you know?
Sure.
But you get to like, if you were to go to like a Yu-Gi-Oh competition, you're not going to see those like normal creators. I mean, you will, like, they're playing it obviously, but
Sure.
what you're going to see is those people again who are like, oh man, you don't know what this does, you know what this was. And another problem too is like half the time the person that's telling you that also doesn't know what that does. That's like the biggest problem in Yu-Gi-Oh. It's not only they're mad at their own game because it's stinky and it sucks, they're mad at the people that played, even though they are the people that played.
Right.
They can't read their own cards. It's like the biggest problem in Yu-Gi-Oh. And so that, like, those things just lead to like a toxic environment that no one wants to join. And I think it's why we see this decline in like Yu-Gi-Oh in like game stores in general. Like, they're either really hardcore Yu-Gi-Oh or they don't carry Yu-Gi-Oh at all, right? People kind of closet Yu-Gi-Oh now almost as if they're shunned, which I don't. You shouldn't be shunned for it, but like if you're being that toxic part of the community, like maybe it's time to rethink what you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we need to, maybe a little later in the episode we'll come back to game stores, because I also think there's like a general thing about toxicity in game stores.
For sure.
You know, but just touching on a couple of other fandoms that have toxic, you know, we don't have to go deep into them, but like The Last of Us, the casting, we're still just ripping on some of the casting for the show. and the choices that they're making with the show. You know, it's a video game that we're turning into a show for real life people, and like we can only do so much.
Yeah, and I don't know if you saw the Legend of Zelda movie casting, but they were having that problem too with the person who like. This was more like not that they looked the part, but there were just people who were upset about who they cast for it. Just like they literally, there's no one that would look any more like this video game person poured it in, and you're mad because why exactly, right? But then you have the last bit scenario where it's like, sure, they don't look the part, but it's also a video game, you know? Like, we're not going to get picture perfect every time.
Right. Well, in like, do you need to? Are they acting, you know?
Right.
It's really about, like, are they acting like the character more than, like, they look like the character?
Correct.
You know? And it's just, like, people are getting bent out of shape about it. It just doesn't, it's just
I mean, like,
unnecessary.
if we're being perfectly honest, what if they made a Dragon Ball movie? No one's going to look like Goku because if we're being perfectly honest, no one has that color hair that's going to change to blonde immediately and then go to blue and then go to red. Like, we have special effects, but let me tell you, some of that stuff's not going to be real, so you might as well stop worrying about it.
Dragon Ball is actually a fantastic. So, I got a couple of other fandoms I'm going to go over, but I want to talk about Dragon Ball because I have seen the Dragon Ball movie. Have you seen the Dragon Ball movie?
Which one?
From, I don't know, early 2000s.
No. I have not.
It's bad. It's really bad. And see, now I don't want to be toxic. I'm not trying to be toxic about it, but like critiquing it, the story is nothing similar to anything even closely related to Dragon Ball Z. Like, I don't know that much about the world of Dragon Ball in general, but I never seen Goku go to high school. Okay.
Oh,
that is in this movie.
all right.
He's in high school. They're like driving around in cars and stuff like that. And he's just like, it's just really strange. The guy that they cast for him, boy, I'm going to have to look it up. He's in other stuff, but I can't think of what he's in. You know, that it's just not fantastic. Justin Chatwin, is Goku.
So this is a live action movie.
This is a live action movie.
All right.
I actually never realized this, but the Bulma and Goku are actually like the lead couple from Shameless. I don't know if you've ever seen Shameless.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, you know the oldest sister,
Yeah.
and then her boyfriend Steve or whatever his real name is.
Mm-hmm.
That's Goku and Bulma.
Huh. All right.
Those are interesting casting choices, you know. And
Yeah.
and again, it's not, do they look like the part? It's like, can they act the part, you know?
Yeah.
And there was a lot of writing choices and just like really free creative decisions being made there. And I Googled it here just to find the actors' names, and the first line that Google is giving me on the AI says that Dragon Ball Evolution from 2009 is a poorly received live-action film adaptation of the Dragon Ball manga, directed by James Wong. Yeah.
All right.
So I just wanted to touch on that. I wanted to touch on that because it has a 2.5 out of 10 from IMDb and a 14% Rotten Tomatoes and a 5 out of 10 on IGN. It's not great. And not even just like the casting choices, but the writing direction, the CGI and stuff like that aren't great. The reason I bring it up though is because where was the outcry for this movie, when it was coming out? Obviously it reviewed poorly, but
Mm-hmm.
you don't really hear about it. No one's like crying about it, at the time it was 2009, we had the internet. I was around in the nerd community. I played the Dragon Ball card game, and I watched that movie. And I didn't hear anything about it. So I think it's definitely a buildup of the social media over time, and the availability to just voice your opinion, which is fine. You should be able to do, but people do it in just a toxic way that there's no consequence or fallback, whereas people might not have that kind of say when they're doing it out loud necessarily, or to other people in a group of people. And a couple of other fandoms, Star Wars had its, a lot of strikes against it in the the sequels, the prequels people didn't like, and then, you know, I feel like Star Wars has always been really toxic when it comes to gatekeeping, because they're very, it's not like the original trilogy. Well, guess what? But the original trilogy came out in 1977 or some shit like that. Like, what do you want us to do? Like, we're trying to evolve with the times, with the way people write stories, the way we have CGI, and what we're able to do with those kinds of things, you know?
Yeah.
And then even going into the new movies, I actually didn't mind. What is the first one? Is the first one The Last Jedi? No, The Force Awakens.
Yeah. I was going to say, it's in The Last Jedi number 6.
No. That's number 8.
Oh.
It goes, I'm not going to go through all of them.
Because 9 is Rise of the Skywalker.
Yeah. So it goes Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, Rise of the Skywalker.
Okay.
Which I didn't mind The Force Awakens. I had some critiques about The Last Jedi. And then The Rise of Skywalker was kind of threw everyone kind of for a fumble there, which I think they knew they messed it up. But, you know, there was some parts of that were fine. I say it now, I'll say it again. I've said it before. You know, if they would have just focused more on Kylo Ren, I think we would have had a really, really good show, or a really good movie. I don't know if they would have focused on him being kind of more of the main character. I know what they were really trying to do, and a lot of people just say that they were just trying to play like the diversity card, the minority card, where they were just uplifting a bunch of minorities, basically. Which is like fine, but you got to do it right, you know. Write those write the character, you know. And we almost had a really cool setup for Finn, and then they kind of just fumbled it in the second movie. Yeah, it was just like you guys kind of just kept fumbling that, you know. And you know, I'm sitting here and I'm saying, like, I'm just critiquing it, but you know, there's people who are like taking it to the max, and they're like toxic, and they're like, you know, shunning all these people that are like, you know, whatever about the movies, or like there's a new movie coming out, they're not gonna watch it, you know. And we do the same thing with like Harry Potter and J.K. Rowling, where they get really, you know, toxic towards J.K. Rowling, which is fine. You can be toxic towards her if she's got, you know, opinions that you don't agree with that are like political opinions.
Well, I would say you should be toxic.
That's fair. You shouldn't be toxic.
You should have a nice discussion with the person, unless it's like it's clearly harming someone else. There's no need to be mean about it.
That's fair. Maybe I am being too harsh. We could critique her, you know, but you have to think about the other like couple of hundred people that are also working on that project.
Exactly.
In any of these capacities, where like, you know, the key grip is literally just doing his job. Like, you know, like he's hired by the studio. This is where they told him to show up, you know, and you know, you're gonna say you're not gonna watch it or give it a chance, you know, and you know, if there's something really wrong with the whole setup, then maybe you don't watch it. But like, you're not even gonna give it a chance, you know, like especially if you're in that fandom. Another big one is Marvel, and Marvel's had its issues, I think, with writing in the later years or these more recent years. But I don't think they've actually had anything that was terrible. You know, even the worst movies, people that say like the Marvels and the Eternals are like terrible movies. I like the Eternals movie. The Marvels was okay. It wasn't bad. I wouldn't review about it or harass people online. You know, from She-Hulk, they got a lot of harassment for that, and the writing in the last 2 episodes was kind of crazy. Just what they were doing there, but you know, it was like so much that we don't even know if we're gonna get She-Hulk back, or like if the actor wanted to come back, just because she was getting harassed basically online. And again, it's not really her fault, you know. She's just doing the acting. Was the acting terrible? No, the acting was fine. Was the writing bad? Questionably, yes, maybe. You know, and a lot of the times it comes down to direction from the director, the editing, or the writing. In a lot of those cases. Oh boy, where were we going here? Kind of already talked about gatekeeping, but basically, you know, there's a lot of people these days are like, you're not a real fan if, you know, type of mentality, where they just kind of have this, and then if you don't think Snape should be, you know, Alan Rickman.
Yeah.
And it's like, Alan Rickman, first of all, I didn't know who Alan Rickman was before I even seen Harry Potter, so like, I only know him as Snape, which is whatever, but it's like, give the chance to someone else, like, you don't know what could happen. This guy, and I love Snape, Alan Rickman as Snape, this guy could be better. We don't know.
Here's another thing, too. Even if you want Alan Rickman, you're not getting it. Well, it's not happening.
Yeah.
There's a fundamental problem there. So
Fair enough.
You're going to get someone else either way.
Yeah, and then I guess, that also leads into like a lot of like books or comic books versus the movies. Where there's a lot of critique when we shift over from one type of media to another, and we get all this backlash because Bella Ramsey doesn't look like Ellie from The Last of Us. So it's just like, okay, like watch the show, and if you watch the show, then shut up. Like, it's just, I don't get it. Yeah, so we got the comic books, we have movies, going, versus like casual fans don't really care that much, and then we kind of got these gatekeeping that is like shrinking communities, and like people are kind of either going elsewhere, which is shrinking fandoms. But it's like, where does this start, really? It's like one person just an echo chamber on the internet, or
I mean, yeah, a little bit, but so it's easier to be mean than it is to be nice, obviously, right? Like it's easier to look at someone and go like stupid or dumb or ugly than it is to go, you know what, that person's nice. Sure. Which it shouldn't be. It's very easy to just point to someone and go, you know what, I like that you're wearing that. It
is wild.
So it's obviously easier to be mean, and I think that people like to express that more, especially when you don't have to take any credit for it. And like the spread of social media has made it easier for you to voice your opinion without facing any like personal backlash to yourself. But on top of that, like we have so much information just spewing from our fingertips of what this is and what's going on. We get all these behind the scenes looks now, and if you look at something from like, and I'll use wrestling as an example, up until like the early 2000s, you never saw behind the curtain. That was a no-no, right? They were always in character if they were out in public. So if you saw Ric Flair, he was Ric Flair. If you saw Dusty Rhodes, he was Dusty Rhodes, right? These guys had real lives, but when they were out and about, they still had to be in character.
True.
Now we have so much curtain pulling back that, like, you've seen in wrestling, there's all these people, and they started being referred to as the ICW, which is known as the independent, or IWC, the independent wrestling crowd, where they all have these very, very specific tastes and opinions on what wrestling should be, and they get to voice it. And I think it's just because they've gained too much access to the what's going on behind the scenes. Like, and it's okay to have the what's going on behind the scenes, but people shouldn't be taking this attachment and going, I know what's best now, just because you've seen this behind the scenes. Like, you don't always know what's best. If we were to tell you that Ric Flair's losing to Dusty Rhodes, and this is happening in 1975, people are going to go, whoa, Dusty Rhodes just won. And they're not going to have any of that, like, all right, so what was the decision to put the belt on Dusty, And it's like, well, Dusty's a really good guy. He helps out. We figured, give him a chance. You don't get there. But now you do. You're like, man, Cody Rhodes, who was the son of Dusty Rhodes. So it's crazy that we can extend this just a little bit. Father, really behind the scenes, son, up front. Obviously, he's done a lot for the wrestling community, but also, like, he does politic a little. There's nepotism going around with Randy Orton and whatnot, right? Like, Randy's a good wrestler. His dad's a legacy wrestler, and people will be like, oh, Randy's just, like, a nepo baby, right? And we don't need that. Okay, if I were to tell you that, like, yeah, that's the son of Cowboy Bob Orton, that's all it should be. It should be like, oh man, that's Cowboy Bob Orton's son. Maybe you just add some more legitimacy behind the character in your brain, right? Shouldn't be going, oh man, he's only getting this because it's his dad. Right. So I think if we didn't have so much curtain pulling back, if people going, oh, I know what's going on back there, it'd be a different thing. I think that translates over to like movies and whatnot too, because you get constant interviews with actors of people going, oh my goodness, let's watch this Tom Holland interview about the Spider-Man, and then everyone's got an opinion on Spider-Man and how it should have been written and where this character should be going. And it's like, you can have that opinion, right?
Sure.
And if you're a diehard comic book reader, that's cool. You can be like, oh, I think they might be doing something similar like Comic 283, and it's like, oh, that's cool. But when you're like, man, I don't think they should have Tom Holland kissing Zendaya because he's Tom Holland. Like, I don't need that. I don't need you to voice your opinion in that manner.
Yeah.
And I think this is, again, it's more of that like curtain playing back where they're like, yeah, there was this cool, let the actors tell the stories, but don't don't give me so many. I don't need an interview from TMZ and then an interview from Hollywood Entertainment and then an interview from Chris Van Vliet and then an interview from, and you just have all 7 interviews and like each one reveals something different. At this point, like I might as well just watch the production of the movie instead.
Right. Right.
So,
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think negativity spreads a lot faster than the positivity, and it's crazy because what you initially said is like it's easier to be mean than nice, which is just doesn't make any sense at all. But
Correct.
but it is true.
yeah.
But yeah, you don't see like a lot of times like we just had Wonder Man from Marvel, and I think it was the first time in probably since like Endgame where the fandom overall, as far as I've seen, is generally like nice job, and granted maybe since then we haven't had anything great, but I mean just in general I haven't seen a lot of people going great job, really on anything. They make so many decisions across all of these companies and all these corporations, and whenever it's negative we are willing to get out there and just destroy someone. Like Joe Schmo made this decision in a back room, or it got mentioned, and everyone in the room was like, yeah, we could try that, and they ran with it, and then here is millions of people just shitting on them. Yeah. It's just like,
Exactly.
bro, you don't know how we came to that decision. You don't know what they were doing.
Right.
And the thing is too is a lot of the times we're doing it before we even see the final result. Like you were talking about Tom Holland, we got a Spider-Man movie coming out, and people start critiquing it. It's like, let's at least see it.
Yeah.
Let's at least see this Snape.
Yes.
If he's trash, let's not jump on his ass, but let's critique it. Hey, we didn't like that writing. And a lot of the times these days, and you can tell this with Marvel, and theoretically Star Wars has also learned from this, is like if the internet says something, they will go about a way of trying to fix it. Now, what they don't respond to is that negativity and that review bombing.
Yeah.
It's when people come out and they're like, hey, we didn't care for the writing on such and such, or that's when they can take a real critique and really look at it. But when you're just review bombing, really, like,
Right.
If someone comes at me and they say, you're a dumb, ugly piece of shit, I'm just gonna be like, okay, piss off.
Right.
But if someone comes up to me and is like, hey, I didn't like that thing that you did, maybe if you could just not do that again or something like that, then I'm hearing you, I'm listening what you're saying, and it goes like that for really any kind of creator that's out there, and they're gonna take that into account. And this spreads, across anything, whether it's, TV, wrestling,
For sure.
video games,
Yeah.
tabletop games,
Game stores.
game stores. Oh my God. The toxicity in game stores it's crazy sometimes, I think it's been called out, and I think weirdly enough, it's weird game stores, because I think what's killing game stores is toxicity, but it's not. It's really a double-edged sword, really, for toxicity in game stores, because one, it's pushing away like the non-toxic people.
Yeah.
But then the people that are like running the stores, or the people that are like really a fan of the store, or are like really a part of the community that's within the store, pushes out the toxic people. So you don't end up with either.
Right.
You don't get the people who are not toxic, but because they got pushed out by the people who are toxic, but then you also pushed out the toxic people. So now you have, lessened how much business you have just in general.
Yeah.
And it just kind of kills the community all the way around.
I want to use Magic as an example, because like there's stuff constantly going on with that, right? This is another one where like when sets used to come out, you didn't get the full, oh my God, I've seen every card in the set 2 days before the set comes out, And now everyone's got an opinion on every single card. Everyone's got a YouTube channel that's like, oh my goodness, have you seen the new card? It's got Ancestor Recall on it. It's going to be broken. It's like, okay, fundamentally, there's this thing that not everyone has, which is a card evaluation skill. So you should not be producing a video if you aren't able to fully break these things down. So like when you have people with results like Luis Scott Vargas, who's out here and he's like, I think this is good and this is why, and gives you a detailed breakdown. It's a lot better than these 3-second shorts that people can just pull up on their YouTube shorts and go, hey, look, I don't like this card. And you scroll and you're like, well, I don't care what that guy said because I like that card, you know? But there's that going on, where there's so many people who have such strong opinions in that community where it's like, we could sit down and play a game of Commander. I can play a blue deck, and I'm not going to counter every one of your spells. But when you look at Commander and a lot of the, like, smaller people, but they produce all these shorts, they're constantly complaining about, like, slivers and blue spells, and they don't actually, like, go into detail on why. They're just trying to appeal to the masses of, like, oh, I know this makes people upset. Let me put something out and make fun of it real quick, you know? And it's like, I'm glad you're getting views, but like you're not actually like helping anything. In fact, you're doing more damage than you are to help it, and you might actually be the toxic one there. So we gotta take that. We gotta go. Should we really be watching these people who are out here going, man, sliver players be like, and bears players be like, rah, and blue players be like, actually, you know, like we don't need any of that.
Well, that's part of like the social media aspect too, right? Is because you go on YouTube, right? And if you notice and you look at my specific, my thumbnails are all just nothing. So don't worry about my thumbnails. I'm working on it. But there's a lot of like thumbnails or even just like the titles of the video are something like really just like clickbaity, and they're really just trying to snap to get your attention. And if you look at mine, I try to stay either, I just give you the title of the episode, or I try to stay really neutral. So like last week was C2E2, right? And basically I was just like, well, C2E2 worth it? You know, I didn't, there's a lot of videos out there that would take the video, and even though in the video everything we said about C2E2 was good, they would title it something a little bit negative. Just to grab your attention. Then you sit there and you watch it, and you're waiting for me to sit there and say something negative, and then I mentioned like one thing I didn't like about it. The crowds was too much on Saturday or something. You know what I mean?
For sure. Yeah. And like another thing too about, they do with Magic, they do with Pokemon. They do almost any card game when they produce videos like that, right? Like you'll get a video like, they printed Ancestral Recall on a card, it's going to be broken. Or, this should be banned, and it's just the big, bold letters, it's right there in your face.
Vivi's going to be cracked in Commander. Correct.
Where you at? Get the spyglass. Get the spyglass.
Where you at, though?
So, you have all these people who are doing that, and then people take that information, they store it up here, right? Because they're not necessarily well-versed in the game, right? They're just getting into it. And so they have these preconceived ideas going on from this thing they saw, because this person is like, oh, these well-established Magic players will get this as like a joke, or they're poking fun at it, right? Now they bring that to the game store, and then now they see someone playing a mono blue deck, right? And this person's playing Kami of the Crescent Moon, and they think it's funny because it's like a monkey guy, but he also has butt cheeks, and like that's why they're playing it, and he just draws extra cards, right? But now this person who's seen this video is going, oh, it's a blue guy, he's gonna counter all my spells. Well, I gotta hate that guy, and it's like, no.
Or they even go into the game with a preconceived notion. That's the worst part.
Correct.
It's like you go into the game with a preconceived notion about what's going to happen. It's just like, bro, I don't know what my deck even does.
Correct.
Like, yeah. And I mean,
so I think like that also affects game stores too, where it's like, we're not only getting the game stores, like there's the toxic group fighting like the local group, and they like kind of like push each other out, and now there's nothing. There's also the people who are like trying to get in, but then they see stuff from like, there's the X and Y axis, right? There's also the Z-axis that is just absolutely obliterating it also right now. And I think it's if we could break some amount of that when it comes to the social media presence that gets pumped out for just anyone to have all these access points, I think it would fix quite a bit of it too. Because like, if we look at it, there's so many people that are just doing the echo chamber thing, which is where this point came from. Of, oh man, this card sucks. Well, my friend Timmy said it sucks, so now I'm going to say it sucks, you know? Oh, Dale and Timmy said it sucks? It sucks. Dale, Timmy, and Ethan said it sucks? And now we've just started a daisy chain, right? So I think, overall, those are like, social media is the number one driver of this.
I think overall, I think that's what we've come to. I mean, like, and I go to the game store, obviously, regularly, and like, you were just talking about cards and saying, they're bad, and it's hard because I know everyone that I talk to at the store, but like sometimes I'll meme on like those, oh, you're playing blue, and I'll kind of talk trash to you, but like I'm like doing it in like a fun way, almost like memeing the actual troll on the internet, or like you play Space Marines, and I'll just like talk crap to you because you're playing Space Marines, but I mean it like, and I've had to work on this over the years because I'm, at one point was like I wouldn't say super toxic but I would be like, just a hater of something.
For sure.
And sometimes I still do it, but like it's more like a jokey, like trying to bait you into like a back and forth. And we talk trash about like Pokemon cards all the time, where it's just like random card, which is like, I just asked you about a stupid card the other day. I was like, why isn't this card good? Just to like, troll a conversation for no reason.
Plenty of times. We got a buddy Ryan. I do it too all the time. It's my favorite too. Like, just bring up a random card and he's like,
just me while with some stupid card.
Right? Why are we playing Steven's Metagross CX? What does that card even do? You don't know that card? That card's broken, dude.
Yeah.
But like, I think you got to know the person too. Is another thing too. Like, you can't just walk into a room of people you've never met before in like any setting. Like, imagine if you just walk into your local police department and you've never met any of the police officers before, and you were just like, man, firefighters, am I right? You might get a reaction because they have an inside joke,
right?
But you're some random guy to them. Like, you can't just walk in there and act all chummy and make the same joke. So you can't walk in there and be like, oh my goodness, Mana Crypt, and expect every police officer to laugh at it. Like, they're not going to get that joke. So you can't bring external stuff in with you all the time. You gotta meet the people. You gotta know what's going on.
For sure. Yeah, and I think this all comes back to really is just like critiquing and learning how to critique. And I'm no teacher, so I'm not going to teach you how to critique. But I think you have to just, every time we look at something, I think we need to understand like people made this, whatever it is, a card, a rule, a video game, a movie, a story within the wrestling realm, right?
Right.
So someone has come up with a story and they're trying to enact a story and they're trying their best. No one's trying to make bad stuff. You want to make bad stuff, or like you want to see someone making bad stuff, go watch like Scary Movie, and it's like,
well, they're not even making some bad. They're like, this is intentionally.
That's what I'm saying. Like, they're intentionally making it like bad, like intentionally making it dumb to like watch it, and it's funny because it's dumb.
Yeah.
But like, no one's out here, actually making anything like intentionally bad. Like, people are usually, genuinely trying to do their best, especially when their names are attached to a lot of these projects or these ideals. It's like, you have to kind of take what you're looking at, understand what you don't like about it, and then kind of transform that into, the actual critique. Like, why does it matter that, Snape is black? Is it because it's not how it's written and you want the story to be like it is, in the book? Yeah. But, it kind of sucks that maybe it's not exactly how it was written in the book, but, the first movies weren't, like the books really either. Just so we're clear. Like, we missed out on full characters. Like, we didn't have the Ghost Peeves, was in no movie at all that we seen. And they just skip over storylines all the time. If you watch the original Lord of the Rings, which is regarded as one of the best trilogies that ever existed, especially in like the fandom realm, we didn't get Tom Bombadil in the actual movie.
So, and he's like, very important.
He's super important, like a huge character. He takes up like multiple chapters in the book.
Well, going back to the Snape thing too, it's like, also, you should voice it properly too, because if you just go, oh man, Snape is black, people might even go like, man, that guy's racist.
Yeah. And a lot of times it does come off that way, right? Is it just looks like the people on the internet are racist because, you're saying that you don't want Snape to be black. And what you're saying is that you don't care that Snape is black. It's that you want your material to be like the source material. Mm-hmm. And that is a fine critique, and we have that critique all the time. Right. Is it something that needs to happen every time? No, I don't think it does. I think, if this is our reboot or our remake of something that we already seen, I think we have the liberty to just take whatever creative freedoms that we want at this point. It's just like, we already did it. Well, what do you want us to just do the thing again? It doesn't make any sense to me,
Like, we already have that thing too. It's like, oh man, you want chocolate ice cream? Why, it's over there. You're not seeing someone bring out chocolate ice cream and go, it's actually called brown ice cream. Right. And we're like,
brand new brown ice cream. And you're like, this is just chocolate. Yeah, it's just like, we already have that.
Yeah. So it's like, sometimes you do want, like, it's this isn't just chocolate, it's fudge swirl. We put fudge in it. And you're like, oh, okay.
Okay, a little bit different. We'll try it and see if we like it. If we don't like it, we're not like, Ben & Jerry's sucks. Can't believe they made this. We just don't eat that fucking ice cream.
Right, yeah. It should be super simple. And, everything's getting blown out of proportion now.
Yeah, it's, and I think sometimes we need to call it out. I think that's, part of how we stop it, obviously your one comment on, you know, a hugely followed, you know, Facebook page or whatever isn't going to get, you know, lit up. But, you know, if you have an outlet or the availability on your own end to do so, whether it's through TikTok or Facebook or YouTube, you know, you got to kind of say your part, you know,
For sure.
try to build communities up here so that we can all talk about what we liked or didn't like humanely.
And I think that's a great thing too. Like you're not going to change John's video on YouTube, right? With 7 million views on, oh my goodness, this card's going to be banned, right? But when you go to your game store, don't yell at someone and be like, man, no, this card's actually not good.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not going to get banned. But you can look at someone and be like, hey man, this is what I think about the card. And maybe he brings up John's video. You go, you know, I watched John's video. I didn't necessarily agree with it because he's trying to say this, and I think this is how it goes. Now, if that person starts yelling, you're not going to change that person's opinion. So at some point, you have to go, you know what? It's just not worth it at this point.
Right.
And my favorite thing to do in that scenario, which I do it all the time now to people. I do it as a joke with my friends, but like if it's an actual scenario, it turns people off immediately. You just look at them and you go, you know what? Actually, I'm on your side now. Like especially when they're super heated up, like they're and they're yelling at you, and you just go, you know what? I'm on your side now. And they go, what? On your side.
You're right.
I agree. Yeah.
Now what are you gonna do? Because you're
gonna yell at me that we're agreeing? Okay. Now you look like a weirdo. You know? So,
yeah, and it's a passion, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm super passionate about, you know, the stuff that I like too. And like, you know, someone talks crap about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, you know, and we're friends, I might get in your face jokingly.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna be like, yo, it's one of the best things ever made, you know.
Sure.
But, you know, I'm kind of just trolling you about it, like memeing about it, you know, I'm just having fun. As where it's like some people mean that shit.
Yeah.
Like, we're really, really upset about it. And I think it's really, it's not how passionate about it. You should definitely be passionate about your fandoms and the stuff that you like. It's really how you're expressing it and how you go about it, you know. And a lot of times I catch myself at the store, our local game store, where I'll say something and immediately after I have to be like, I'm just kidding, you know.
Yeah.
Just to make sure that we're settling the tension before it even builds up. Like I'm not like, you know, intentionally trying to make anyone upset or sometimes even feel that way about something, you know.
For sure.
Troll someone about their deck that they're playing and be like, that's bad. You said
like when we were joking about Vivi, that's like an inside joke for us.
Yeah.
We had a thing that when Vivi first came out, there's everyone on the internet was, oh, this card's broken, it's got to be banned, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And now it's nowhere, right? You were looking for it, I pulled out a spyglass, I couldn't see it, right? Well, I don't hate Vivi. I don't hate the Vivi card. If you're playing Vivi, cool, enjoy. It doesn't bother me. It's just we had such an experience that we now have a joke about it. We're not saying that Vivi isn't something you should play. It's not a bad card.
Yeah, I think the card is actually still decent. I just don't think it's, you know, we were just taking to the extreme of what they were saying, basically.
Correct.
Because they were saying, you know.
We were making fun of John's internet video.
Yeah. This thing is so busted. And we were just like, the card's bad. But really, obviously, the card is obviously good. If you know what it is.
For sure.
It's obviously good.
I have one disclaimer I completely forgot.
Sure.
We're talking about the wrestling thing. Pulling back the curtain, I think we can still pull back the curtain, right? And let people in. I'm not saying we should shut them out entirely.
Sure.
I'm just saying we should, like, limit it. Like, we shouldn't be gatekeeping the behind-the-scenes secrets of, like, you know, when people help out, they do garner favor, right? Yeah, that's a fine thing for people to know. Like, yeah, because especially, too, like, if you were in like, a business setting where it's like, man, you know, Ricky's the janitor, but he became the head janitor because he would stay extra, you know, and like you see all these extra things. That's why he's there, you know. Yeah, sure. Maybe you don't like Drew McIntyre's WWE champion, but he's doing good work. The company, he's never like super. I don't actually know any of these things. I'm just using him as an example, like a blank name. He's showing up early. He's staying late. He's helping out the new guys. So we're gonna give him a chance, you know. That's a fine thing to like. Oh, that's why they did it. Okay. And it doesn't have to come out right away. It can come out later. But we also don't need to gatekeep that and be like, well, you're into wrestling and you don't understand why that's happening. Get out of here.
Yeah.
So there's points where the gatekeeping can be opened up And there's a point where it should be closed off a little bit.
Yeah, well, in that example, gatekeeping sometimes will just like completely turn people away too, and I've seen it happen before. Just like just playing like running a Dungeons and Dragons game. It's like you have several people who are pretty familiar with the rules, and you get a new person in, and everyone's kind of like, oh, well, you don't know the rule, and like you don't know how that works, And I've been playing this game a long time, so I've seen almost everything that has happened at a D&D table, but you have to kind of control like toxicity within your own fandom and kind of, curate, if someone leaves because someone else is being toxic, at that point you kind of have to you have to sit that person down and talk to them about that situation, or just they have to leave. And you kind of just, show them a consequence. If you can show a consequence, without, being hateful in any way, I think we have I want to say the right, but almost like we should just be doing it. Like we should be the thing that we do. It's just like, we have to show you a consequence for being that toxic. Like we don't want people to leave because of toxic people or because they are toxic, but we want to show people, we can have differing opinions, or we can have, levels of knowledge, instead of just like being hostile right out of the gate, Yeah. And it comes really down to just a lot of it is like emotional intelligence, really, for a lot of it. It's just like being able to say the things that you mean. A lot of times on the internet, it's really just like, it feels like I'm just listening to like cavemen, basically, where they don't know how to articulate what they're saying, and they're just like, rah, 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 rah. It's like, why don't you think about it, And especially with social media, it's like, if you hear something, you got to post it right away so that you get all the click right on it right away. Yeah. It's just like, why don't you take a moment to think about what you're saying first,
For sure.
Before you just...
For sure. Yeah, I didn't come rushing to this episode and go, you know what, I actually don't know which ones I'm going to talk about. I was on the drive over, and I was like, okay, these are the ones that I want to get for sure, I want to talk about. Yeah. And then I garnered my thoughts from there, right? We didn't rush headlong into this, and I think people shouldn't rush headlong into making fun of things either, If you're,
for sure,
especially with a joke too. If you're gonna make fun of something, people have to understand it's a joke.
Yeah, or
otherwise you might be toxic.
Yeah, it could go there.
And you know what? I think this is a great like finishing point here.
Sure.
We're going back to wrestling one last time.
Sure.
There's a man, and he's doing wonderful work, in fact. And everyone should go watch him and enjoy him, because he's ousting toxicity from wrestling the way it is. His name is Kit Wilson. He has the catchiest theme song. He has a signature pose, and he's making sure that people don't have toxicity or toxic masculinity ruining their time.
Sure.
This character's a bad guy, by the way.
Oh, this.
But
okay.
What we should be doing is we should be actually taking that message and just like, you know what? Are you being that toxic wrestling fan that he is currently like making fun of in that situation? And you should apply that to just a broader spectrum. So everyone should go and look at Kit Wilson and be, hey, am I this thing that he is making fun of in my own system? And if you are, how can you change that?
Fair. Anything else?
Yeah. Final message.
Okay.
If you ever are in this discrepancy, right? You don't have the way to articulate it, right? Very simple saying of, it's not for me. Don't start yelling.
Yeah.
Don't start pointing, being like Charmander's stupid. Just go, you know what? It's not for me.
Yeah. Or ask to understand,
Yeah.
Especially with other people in your community. I know we were trying to end right there, but just
no, it's not fine. This is a continuation of the ending. This is the finish.
Yeah, just being more knowledgeable, I think, is also a big part of it. Just learning.
Yeah, you're not gonna learn from someone who's yelling at you, but you are gonna learn from someone who you ask to be like, hey, what do you mean by that? Or, I don't understand what you're trying to say. Yeah. Could you elaborate it more?
Why would they do this, or why is that happening?
Mm-hmm.
And being more knowledgeable, especially talking about something inside the fandom with someone who's also a part of the fandom. I love talking about stuff, about stuff that I'm passionate about, when we can have a conversation about it, even if maybe I don't agree with your point, where I can be, switched over to your side, or maybe the other way around.
For sure.
You know, again, be so quick to tear down, you know, whatever media that we're, you know, a fandom of, or the people that are also within the fandom. You know, it's stuff that we love. So it's like, why are we going to be mad about it?
Exactly.
But I guess that'll be it for us today. This might be a little bit of a shorter one. So thanks for hanging out. In the comments, you know, I don't want to hear about toxicity in the comments. Why don't we discuss fandoms that we want to be less toxic?
Well, I was going to say, they could even just share like a positive experience too. Where it was
Positive.
like, yeah, where it was like, you know what? I was having a bad time in my LGS, and then this guy, he let me try one of his decks, and I enjoyed it, and so I built it. You know, like a positive thing like that.
Yes. Something about a positive individual in your local store, or about a project that has come out within the last year from any kind of media or medium that has come out. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and have a good game.